Murders are always heartbreaking, but these tragedies are even more unbearable. Here are the most murderous school shootings in history. Number 7. Umpqua Community College, Oregon. October 1st, 2015. The state of Oregon witnesses its deadliest mass shooting in modern history. That day, 26-year-old Chris Harper Mercer stormed into a classroom in Umpqua Community College and started killing everyone he saw. The first victim was an assistant professor shot at point-blank range. Harper Mercer then went on to shoot the rest of the students in the class, often asking them their religion beforehand, but shooting them regardless of their answers. 2 plainclothes detectives arrived at the scene, and a shootout resulted in Harper Mercer being hit at the right side. Wounded, he retreated into a classroom and shot himself in the head. A total of 10 people were killed and 9 injured, including a U.S. Army veteran who suffered multiple gunshot wounds while trying to save others. 5 handguns and a long gun were recovered at the scene, as well as a flak jacket and plenty of ammunition for a lengthy gunfight. Harper Mercer was revealed to be a student at that college and was under academic probation for his fallen grades. A number of his writings were recovered, showing that he had studied other cases of mass shootings and detailed his frustrations of being a virgin and his hate towards black people. Number 6. Columbine High School, Colorado. For years, Eric Harris and Dylan Klebold were known as troubled teenagers. Fans of the video game Doom, the two friends created a website in 1996 to host game levels that they created for the popular first-person shooter. But after a year, the site had evolved into something else. It contained instructions on how to make real-life explosives, how to cause mischief, and death threats towards certain people. In early 1998, the pair were arrested for stealing tools from a van and forced to go through a juvenile diversion program. Soon after, they began keeping journals and documented their efforts in obtaining firearms and creating explosive devices, as well as plans for a major bombing and shooting at their school. April 20th, 1999 was the date that the high school seniors chose for their attack. They first planted propane bombs in the cafeteria, hidden inside duffel bags. They then went to arm themselves at their vehicles outside. When bombs in the cafeteria failed to detonate, the armed teenagers re-entered their school and started a killing spree. The first wave of attacks started at their school's entrance and the hallway beyond, where they shot 10 students and 2 teachers. The second wave was a bloody library massacre, resulting in the combined deaths and injuries of over 20 students. After nearly an hour after the first shots were fired, and with police surrounding the school, the pair locked themselves in a break room and committed suicide together. 15 people died that day and 24 more injured. The incident is considered the most deadly high school shooting in U.S. history and sparked a nationwide debate over gun control and violence in video games. Number 5. Sandy Hook Elementary School, Connecticut. On December 14th, 2012, Adam Lanza killed his mother at their home with 4 gunshots to the head. He then left in his mother's car, bringing with him a large quantity of firearms and ammunition, which included semi-automatic rifles, handguns, and a shotgun. Arriving at Sandy Hook Elementary School, Lanza bypassed the locked doors by shooting down a glass panel with a rifle. His first few victims were a few faculty staff members who arrived to determine the source of the noise he made. Screams and warnings about a shooter quickly echoed throughout the hallways, prompting students and staff members to hide anywhere they could, under desks, in closets, and in bathroom stalls. Lanza then forced his way into a first-grade classroom, shooting all 15 children inside and their teacher. The shootings continued for a while at other parts of the school, and after police arrived at the scene, Lanza shot and killed himself. Investigation showed that the 20-year-old perpetrator did not have a criminal record. Students and teachers who knew Lanza described him as intelligent, but nervous and fidgety. He had previously been diagnosed with Asperger's and OCD, and his father suspected him of being schizophrenic. However, the clear cause or motive behind the shooting is still undetermined. With 28 deaths, the incident is currently the deadliest mass shooting at a grade school in U.S. history, and the 3rd deadliest caused by a single person in the country. Most victims were aged 6 to 7. Number 4. Virginia Tech, Virginia. Sung-Hui Cho was a South Korean with U.S. permanent resident status studying at Virginia Tech. On April 16, 2007, he headed out early in the morning to another resident hall in the campus and shot 2 students, killing them both. He then returned to his dormitory to reload and change out of his blood-stained clothes. After mailing a package at a nearby post office, Cho walked to an academic building which housed the engineering science and mechanics program and chained all the entrances shut. Once done, he went on a shooting massacre, killing 30 students and staff members before finally committing suicide. In all, 33 people died and 23 were injured. 2 days after the incident, NBC News received the package Cho mailed earlier between the 2 shootings. It contained a written manifesto and digital recordings in which he expressed his hatred for the rich and likened himself to Jesus Christ. Portions of the manifesto were aired on TV, prompting criticism from various parties. Cho had been diagnosed with severe anxiety disorder and been under therapy since his school years. Reports indicated that his mental condition had been deteriorating, and a professor had tried to get him to seek help, but he refused. His true underlying psych diagnosis in his final days remains unknown. Number 3. Army Public School, Pakistan. As a country that borders Afghanistan, Pakistan is not unfamiliar with terrorist attacks. However, nothing prepared them for the Peshawar school massacre of 2014, the deadliest they had ever witnessed. Perpetrators of the attack were gunmen affiliated with Tehrik-i-Taliban Pakistan, or TTP, a terrorist Islamic group based along the Afghan border. On December 16, 2014, 7 TTP members disguised in uniforms of a Pakistani paramilitary force climbed over the public school's walls and entered from the back entrance. Armed with automatic weapons, the terrorists headed towards the auditorium where students were gathered. Once there, they opened fire indiscriminately on students and teachers. Some of the children managed to exit the building, but were gunned down in the garden outside. A rescue operation was quickly launched by the Pakistan Army Special Services Group, SSG. One of the terrorists was killed early on, and the other 6 retreated to the administration block with several hostages. Fortunately, the SSG commandos proved their skill worthiness, killing 3 terrorists by snipers from a distance, as well as the remaining 3 when they stormed the building, rescuing the hostages in the process. Although the rescue team had arrived early, 150 people had already been killed, 134 of them children. More than 100 more were injured. The TTP claimed responsibility for the attack, claiming it as revenge for Pakistan's previous military attacks on their base. In retaliation, Pakistan intensified their offenses against that group and even lifted its death penalty law, which had been on hold for 6 years. 2 years following the school massacre, over 400 death row prisoners have been executed. Number 2. Garissa University College, Kenya. Prior to the attack on Garissa University College, Kenya had suffered a few terrorist attacks from Al-Shabaab, the Al-Qaeda offshoot operating in East Africa. However, most of the attacks were outside major urban population centers like Garissa. Garissa was considered a safe spot as it housed military barracks and police headquarters. All of that changed in April 2015 when the town witnessed one of Kenya's bloodiest and deadliest attacks in decades. Early in the morning, around 5 a.m., 5 armed Al-Shabaab gunmen raided the campus, killing 2 guards at the entrance and forcing students out of their dormitories. The gunmen then took over 700 students hostage and shot those who they suspected to be Christians. The Kenya military were deployed and had the entire area surrounded. The siege ended after nearly 15 hours with all terrorists dead. 4 of them were gunned down by special forces, while the 5th had detonated his suicide vest, injuring some soldiers. 142 students died in the attack, as well as 3 soldiers and 3 policemen. 79 were injured. According to an Al-Shabaab spokesman, the attack was part of a mission to kill all those who were against them, and that they considered the institution was built on Muslim land, colonized by non-Muslims. Over the next following weeks, more than half of all schools in Garissa closed over fears of being targeted. Number 1. Beslan School, Russia. In the early days of September 2004, a group of armed Chechen militants occupied School Number 1 in Beslan, a town in Russia's North Caucasus region. The incident would be known as the worst school attack in recorded history. It was the traditional start of the Russian school year, and due to the festivities held, the number of people in the school was higher than regular days. A group of Chechen guerrillas left their forest encampment and headed to the school in Beslan in a captured police van and military truck. With their green camouflage suits and balaclava masks, the people at the school first thought they were Russian military practicing a drill. But then, the gunmen fired shots in the air and forced everyone into the school building. By the time the Russian army and special forces arrived, several of the 1,100 hostages in the school had already been killed. The attackers had by then set explosive devices with tripwires around the school gymnasium where the hostages were held and threatened to kill more of them. The men demanded recognition of an independent Chechnya state from the Russian government, but after 2 days, negotiations still went nowhere. The lack of food and water and extreme heat in the tightly packed gym took a toll on the young children, causing many to faint. On the third day, the Russian army decided to use force and stormed the building with tanks, rocket launchers, and other heavy artillery. The militants were killed, but at an extremely heavy cost. At least 330 hostages died, including 186 children. To this day, many questions remain unanswered surrounding the incident, as the Russian government used heavy censorship to cover details of what happened.
It is no secret that during the war, the Third Reich killed and tortured millions of prisoners in their concentration camps. They gassed millions of people with various poisonous gases like carbon monoxide and cyanide-based pesticides like Cyclone B. In some places, they went even further as to conduct gruesome scientific and medical experiments.